It's Whinfrey from LevelK, and today I'll be talking about Futarchy, or more specifically, Futarchy Curated Registries. So first we're going to go over what is Futarchy, a few of the different drawbacks or possible limitations with Futarchy, which we're trying to experiment with, and then our own experiment, which is a Futarchy Curated Registry, which we'll get into. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you can get involved and help us test Futarchy and figure out how this new governance system can help us improve the governance systems that we have today. So what is Futarchy? So Futarchy, it's pronounced like the word future with the suffix archy that's used in words like anarchy and monarchy. And Futarchy is a proposed system of governance that uses prediction markets to determine which decisions will have the most positive effect. So let's imagine we're creating a system of governance, and say we're creating a system of governance for what's for lunch at DappCon. So we're trying to get, which lunch option is going to be the best for the most people. So the first thing we would do is we'd probably put it to a vote. Democracy is usually a very fair system of governance, but it doesn't always result in the best decision. So let's take a look at why that might be the case. So we have people here from all over the world today, and we might not all know what the best choices are for lunch in Berlin. So we have Tito's Tacos, La Ratatouille, Rick's Cafe, Krusty Krab, and Pizza Planet. So if I were to choose an option, I don't know what the good option is. I might just choose randomly. I might just go with what my gut feeling is, or I might just not participate at all. So we have this problem where we have uninformed voters, and that might lead to a decision that's not the best for the most people. And then I need to feel that it's worth my time to actually participate in this vote. I'm getting a return on an investment with my time. So we have another possibility, which is low participation, which also might result in a choice that's not the best for the most people. So let's take a look at how Futarchy could be used to make a decision. And obviously this is a very trivial decision, but this is a new system of governance, and this could be scaled up to any type of decision, even governance decisions at the national level. So the first thing we need to do with Futarchy is come up with what is our success metric? How do we know that we made a good decision? So for our lunch decision, we want to maximize overall lunch satisfaction. So hypothetically, if we were to survey all the attendees after DappCon and get a rating on how satisfied they were with their lunch, we could come up with an overall average lunch satisfaction that will tell us how good of a choice we made. And now that we have our success metric, we can start a prediction market for each of our options on what the overall lunch satisfaction will be if we were to choose one of these options. And so Futarchy, so we can see that we just launched a prediction market for each of our options, and at the end of our prediction market, it's showing that Pizza Planet has the highest overall predicted lunch satisfaction, so that's the option that we would choose. In reality, the function that decides which option we choose is called a decision function, and decision functions are usually more complicated than just showing which one is the highest at the end, because that's very susceptible to manipulation. But that's beyond the scope of this talk. If you want to talk more about it, come find me after. But Futarchy has its own drawbacks. So it's really hard to come up with a good success metric because your decision needs to have a large impact on your success metric. So if we were, say, to have a success metric of overall conference satisfaction for our lunch decision, then our lunch decision may not have a strong enough effect on our success metric to make a good decision. And with normal market noise, we might end up with a fairly random decision that's not the best for the most people. And then if we scale it to talking about making a decision at the national governance level, it can be very difficult to come up with one success metric that represents what everybody cares about most. It may be GDP, it may be health, it may be happiness, but it's really hard to come up with an overall metric for wellness. And then we also have the potential for market manipulation. So we need to make sure that our Futarchy market is both liquid enough and has enough informed participants who are able to predict how the decision will affect the success metric in order to be resistant from market manipulation. So this is why it's so important to experiment with these new forms of governance. We need to figure out where the drawbacks are and where Futarchy will improve our systems or governance and where it might not be the best choice. So for our experiment, we're building a Futarchy curated registry, which is basically a token curated registry that uses Futarchy as its form of governance. If you've never heard of token curated registries, I'm going to get into it a little bit, but there's a ton of material later today on token curated registries. It's a pattern we're all really excited about at LevelK because we think it has applications all over the place. We see token curated registries are being used to curate lists of trusted ad publishers, tokens that meet a certain criteria of transparency. They're being tied into more complex systems like Civil's decentralized journalism platform. And really quick, I want to give a shout out to Mike Calvanese and Emily Williams because they put a huge amount of effort into making our Futarchy curated registry a reality. I would definitely go find them if you're interested in the project and talk to them. So really quick, what is a token curated registry? So basically, it's a list in no particular order of entries, and these entries could be anything. They could be tokens, they could be ad publishers, and at any point, someone can challenge an item on the list, and that starts a new governance decision. So in a typical token curated registry, we would start a vote. And token holders would vote on whether this listing should be removed from the registry or be kept on the registry. And the result of the vote decides whether or not that listing actually remains on the registry or is removed. So our Futarchy curated registry simply replaces that voting governance decision with a Futarchy decision. So when a listing is challenged, we start a new Futarchy market. And for our Futarchy curated registry, our success metric is token price. So token price is a good success metric because it's often what people care about. It's a good metric on the overall health of a decentralized system. And then it's also very easy to resolve the market because we can just get a price oracle from some sort of exchange and resolve it. And we don't need to do any kind of survey or anything like that like we did with our lunch decision. So when an entry is challenged, we would start a new Futarchy decision for, is the price of the registry's token going to be higher if this listing remains on the list? Or is it going to be higher if it's removed from the list? And whichever decision shows the higher predicted token price is what actually happens to the list. So we think Futarchy curated registries are a great way to experiment with Futarchy because they're very flexible. Once we get this project complete, we can apply it to all kinds of different applications, and we can test different list sizes, which will help us determine things like how much our decision needs to affect our success metric. So with a small list size, our decision is going to have a huge effect on our success metric, token price, because adding a listing to a 5-item list is a much bigger effect than adding a listing to a 1,000-item list. So we can kind of get a gauge on where Futarchy might start to break down. So if you want to get involved in testing how Futarchy can help improve our current systems of governance, there's a few different ways we can apply it. And the least invasive and easiest to do is signaling. So signaling can be applied to any DApp that's out there today and and even governance decisions that are being made in traditional forms of governance. You don't need any kind of permission to do this. You simply you come up with a success metric and start a Futarchy market for that decision. And then voters can choose to use that Futarchy market as a signal for which way they should vote. So if they care about GDP for their country, they can use a Futarchy market to decide which way to vote in a certain decision. And then if your DAO implements some sort of delegated democracy scheme, you can actually allow voters to delegate to a Futarchy market instead of an individual. So they could both delegate to someone else, or they could decide to vote with the Futarchy decision. So it's kind of like an opt-in Futarchy. And then there's full-on Futarchy. So if you want to get involved, I encourage you to follow our progress. We have 2 repos for this project at levelkdev/tcr and levelkdev/fcr-project. And if you have any questions or you just want to chat about Futarchy, feel free to reach out at contact@levelk.io. Thanks.